They didn't come. Not to the vows, not to the dinner, not to the dance. When my mother's text came through, "Sweetheart, it's your sister's big shoot, you'll understand," I read it twice, as if maybe the words would rearrange themselves into something less insulting. But they didn't. I stood in my wedding dress, the one I paid for with 2 years of overtime, phone in hand, my husband watching me from across the room. He didn't need to ask. He could read it on my face. I smiled, slowly, deliberately. That smile was not forgiveness. It was a promise. They always told me family comes first. What they meant was her comes first. I grew up in her shadow. She was the golden child before she could even walk. Beauty pageants, dance recitals, piano concerts, I was the unpaid stagehand to her main act. Birthdays, holidays, even my graduation were rescheduled around her appearances. The first time I ever heard my father's voice crack with pride was when she landed a modeling campaign at 19. He didn't sound like that when I told them I'd gotten into grad school. By 25, I stopped trying to compete. I thought acceptance was maturity. It wasn't. It was surrender. The signs were there weeks before the wedding. Late replies, vague excuses about commitments. When I pressed, they got defensive. "You're being dramatic. We'll be there," my mother said. 3 days before the wedding, my sister called. Not to congratulate me, not to ask about flowers or music. She wanted me to move the ceremony to next month so it wouldn't clash with a career-defining magazine shoot. I laughed. She hung up. When the day came and they didn't show, I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch. I had already started planning. See, I wasn't just marrying a man. I was marrying into his network, a circle of investors, publishers, and art curators. Connections my parents didn't even know I had. And in that network, my sister's so-called career was a fragile house of cards, propped up by 2 agencies and one very influential editor. One editor I happened to be having coffee with a week later. I started small. A casual mention of how overbooked my sister was, how she'd skipped my wedding for something more important, how she had a habit of missing shoots at the last minute if better offers came up. I didn't sound bitter, just concerned. People believe concern. It sounds noble. From there, I slid the right photos to the right inboxes. Not the glossy magazine shots, the unedited, unflattering candids she'd once begged me to delete. And I knew exactly who to send them to, a rival model's PR manager. 2 weeks later, her agency restructured her contract, which is a polite way of saying they cut her bookings by half. My parents didn't notice right away. They were too busy trying to figure out why I stopped answering their calls. When my father finally cornered me at a family brunch, one I was too busy to attend but somehow found time for, I just sipped my coffee and let him talk. "She's going through a tough time," he said. "This isn't the moment to hold grudges." I smiled again. Tough time? That's life catching up. But the real move came months later. One of my husband's friends, a gallery owner, was looking for new faces for a campaign. My sister's name came up. I made sure to be in the room. I leaned in, whispered, "She's unreliable." Left my wedding for a photo shoot. Imagine what she'd do to a brand deal. Silence. Then her name disappeared from the list. By the time my parents realized her bookings had dried up, she'd already sold her car and moved back into their house. And that's when they called me. Not to apologize, not to admit they'd been wrong. They called because they needed money. The irony tasted sweet. I met them at their kitchen table, the same one where, years ago, they told me I was being selfish for asking why they never showed up for my college awards night. My mother's eyes were tired. My father's voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. "She's your sister," he said. "We're family. We need to help her." I set my checkbook on the table, opened it, then closed it. "I did help her," I said. "I helped her see what it feels like to be second place." They stared at me like I'd grown horns. I stood, slid my chair back, and looked them in the eye. You skipped my wedding for her. You've skipped my life for her. You made your choice. Now I've made mine. I walked out without looking back. People think revenge feels like fire. It doesn't. It feels like ice. Calm, clean, absolute. And as I left that house, I realized something. They'd never expected me to win. Never imagined I could outplay them. That's why it worked. Because I smiled. And they thought the smile meant I'd forgiven them. It didn't. It meant the game had just begun.